What's cracking, everybody? SHINY here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my favorite Great League team featuring Giratina Origin in the Great League. Skarmory and Tina make the strongest core that I have seen in this meta in a long time. And I've been using Goodra on the safe swap lately because it really does a great job at having that coverage that you need to cover most things. Aqua Tail, super spammy. Power Whip, able to handle things like a Azumarill, Poliwrath, and the sort. So let's take a look at these battles in the Great League here because this team is honestly pretty busted. So let's take a look at the first battle here. We're going to get into it with Skarmory into Annihilate. So very neutral here. Both of us are hitting each other for neutral damage, but unfortunately, the Shadow Ball just does a ton of damage. So the way I play this out here is I go for the Sky Attack because it's going to guarantee me a shield, and I usually don't shield the first move. This opponent goes for the Night Slash. Most often they do go for Shadow Ball. Either way, I still don't shield it. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the shield advantage and dip straight into my Goodra here. Their whole premise behind this team is using Giratina with 2 shields to sweep. And if you end up getting matched up against a Dark type or a Lickitung in the back, then most of the time it ends up being a loss regardless, and you just move on, right? You get team comp that way. But for any other situations, Giratina with shields and some farm is almost always going to do an excellent job at putting a lot of pressure on opponents. So my Goodra here is going to be able to get to the next Aqua Tail. I did shield up because I wanted to take out the Alolan Sandslash or eliminate the opponent's shields. And the reason why we just eat the energy from Annihilate and also Poliwrath as well, because Giratina can do just fine with those, and it's really going to come down to what they have on the back. So opponent's going to go for the next Night Slash, and they get the boost, which is really unfortunate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with my Skarmory, do some fast moves, and get denied. And I cannot wait until this one-turn bring-in lag gets fixed, because I've lost so many games to it recently. But the opponent now has a Dugong in the back, and I'm like, yep, you know what? I lose. That's it. Good game. It's one of those things, right? Like, you hit the end game, and sometimes there's just things in the back that your Giratina can't beat. So my opponent has D-Nair in the lead, and they safe swap into a Galarian Stunfisk. And I haven't seen G-Fisk in so long that I actually kind of like, what the heck do I do against this thing, right? So I come in with my Giratina because Goodra really isn't super comfy. Yes, it does get to the Aqua Tails, but the Dragon Breaths being resisted are kind of a problem. My opponent's going for a straight Rock Slide here, but they didn't quite build up to the Earthquake. I believe they threw one short, so I didn't need to shield it. If it was an Earthquake, or at least they built up to the Earthquake, I would have gone ahead and shielded it. My opponent puts up their shield, so I'm now going to match my shield, as I assume that they're trying to fight for Switch here. And so if I can count these moves right, which at this point I'm hoping. I did do these on the live stream. I believe it was on the Friday live stream. This team went all positive. It was, except for one set at the end where we got a bit hard countered, it was all 4 1s, 3 2s. The team went off. And so here we get to the Shadow Ball on the CMP tie with the G-Fisk, so we're able to take Switch here. All shields are down. And Skarmory, honestly, without shields, like, Skarmory's just gonna pop off. We get Switch advantage here. Skarmory comes in, the opponent immediately pops in a Lantern. And this is why I like running Double Dragon instead of using something like Sableye in the back, because a lot of Pokemon are out here like Talonflame, Whiscash, Lantern. I love using Goodra to take care of these things. Good game. Getting into the next battle, we got Umbreon on the lead. So the way that I typically handle these Dark type leads, right? Mandibuzz and Umbreon both. We stay in here, okay? The reason why is because I have a reasonable assumption just based on how most people play, that if they have a Dark type in the lead, they probably don't have another one in the back, and they wouldn't really want to throw a Lickitung back there either, because that would make them incredibly weak to things like Wigglytuff, which there have been a ton of. I don't know where they came from, but the Wigglytuffs are everywhere, dude. But also, they wouldn't probably put, like, Lickitung in the back because they'd be weak to fighting as well. So, I stay in here, I do as much damage as I can, and if my opponent decides they want to shield, I will also be okay with matching shields. But my end goal here is to get the Umbreon low and get it to a point where I can farm it down with Goodra. Now, thankfully, in my favor, the opponent in this game was throwing on bad timing, allowing me to get some Steel Wings through. But overall, this is fine with them because they actually are able to align their Azumarill onto my Goodra, which is unfortunate. But I do know that my Giratina is not a bad matchup here. I wish I think that I should have definitely come in with my Giratina a lot sooner here. I make a call here because from playing this, I know that I can live an Ice Beam but not a Play Rough, and I just have to assume that because they farmed up so hard, they've probably got Play Rough. So now I'm going to go for another Power Whip. This one lands. And I think I'm just going to let the next move go and just put it all on Giratina. And if my Goodra lives, then I'm swapping out regardless. It doesn't live, unfortunately. But now I'm going to be able to come in and farm. And this is where Giratina is going to shine a lot. We're going to be able to farm this thing almost all the way down. Unfortunately, they get to a move first. But I have over a Shadow Ball loaded at this point. The opponent now has a Trevenant. And because I've got almost 2 Shadow Balls, remember, it's going to take them 6 Shadow Claws to get to the Seed Bomb, and I'm actually going to be able to get there before they do. They don't even bother try to call that bait. Like, no, we're not baiting here. Good game. Now, I found out after the fact that Trevenant wins CMP over Giratina, which is wild. And this is where we need to see the Wigglytuff in the next game here. Wigglytuff in the lead. They go out into a Azumarill, and I stay in here. I'm kind of hoping that maybe they'll throw some energy here. Really, quite honestly, I need to keep switch advantage, which is exactly why I stayed in to throw that Brave Bird. So what I'm going to do here is I have to shield. I want to see what move they have. If they have Ice Beam, then I'm fine no shielding the next Ice Beam. Goodra and Giratina can both comfortably tank an Ice Beam. Play Rough, not so much, at least from Azumarill. So I'm going to go for Shadow Ball here, and I can give up another shield if I need to, but I'm going to assume that they're going to throw another Ice Beam here, because most, you know, they're going to just do the same thing. But they go for the Play Rough! And unfortunately, that actually does a lot of damage, but can we get this farm down just barely? 1 HP and a dream. Shiny Giratina out here getting that farm down. Gonna land a double resisted Shadow Ball, but it's some chip damage, but that's okay. Because honestly, keeping switch was huge. The opponent has a Clodsire in the back, which means that Skarmory has a ton of play into this team. And quite honestly, Aqua Tail is going to do quite a bit of damage to this thing as well. So we're looking pretty good here. I'm just going to save the shield for Skarmory, to be honest, and let Goodra go if it needs to. Opponent goes for the Earthquake here, and that's what I love about Goodra. It's got such bulk for a Dragon type. It's actually quite nice. Now, if I wasn't running Skarmory on the lead, I would probably have something like Altaria in the back, because quite honestly, that Altaria, as thick as it is, it just seems like it does so well against some of this meta. But Goodra having that grass coverage with the Power Whip is something that I've really come to appreciate, and it really makes a great save swap for this team. So opponent's going to go for the Icy Wind here. I could just farm down. I don't even need to do anything, and my opponent concedes. Good game. All right, we're going to get into the next battle here. Skarmory on the lead versus Feraligatr. This is dangerous. Very dangerous. Really what comes down to is what's in the back. Now, I've changed the way that I've played this out. I used to go and do it exactly like I do here, where I would tank a move and throw a charge move at the opponent to get a free shield. And lately, what I've been doing is I'm just swapping straight into Goodra, because I've seen enough people running Feraligatr lead and Wiggles in the back. Just like this trainer. And this makes it incredibly difficult for me to be able to really make anything happen once my Skarmory's almost out of HP. Right, Giratina, hopefully can finish this and clutch this game up. But now I'm basically forced to spend a shield on Skarmory to get this farm down here. And that's really, really unfortunate. So, in hindsight, because of this situation, I have changed the way that I've played this to just go straight into Goodra. At least that way my Skarmory has the energy. My Skarmory then is going to have the energy after farming down still, but not have all of its HP missing. Now, the opponent comes in with Annihilate here, which is very interesting. I would have expected them to come in with the Feraligatr, but they do come in with the Annihilate, which means I should be able to get to a Shadow Ball against their Feraligatr. Now, they come in immediately with it, and I'm just like, nope, we're going straight for it. We're just going to nail this thing out. And then, because my opponent just threw Shadow Ball, it means that they're not going to be able to get to a move before I get to my Ominous Wind, and if they do, it's just an Ice Punch or a Night Slash, which definitely will not knock out from this range. They win this game if they bait, honestly, and get that shield from me earlier. But in this case, thankfully, because they didn't bait and they full sent the Shadow Ball, we were able to get the dub here. Good game to the opponent. Nope. And we're picking up the first 4-1 here. So we did go back to, or we did have a bunch of 4-1s. I wasn't back-to-back. I went like 3-2, 4-1, 3-2, 4-1. And then I think we had a 1-4 at the end. But just like the Umbreon from earlier, we're going to do the same thing here with this Mandibuzz. It's like my nose just starts itching every time I start recording a video. It's driving me nuts, dude. My nose just like, hey, you're recording a video? Let's keep itching it the entire time. Man. Anyway. Gonna play this out the exact same way. I know that I lose this matchup, but it's more important for me to get rid of this Mandibuzz so that my Giratina doesn't have to see it. So I'm gonna go for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go for the Sky Attack. The opponent is going to be forced to throw their move, or I'm going to get to a Sky Attack very quickly. So they are going to have to throw here. This is fine with me. Once again, playing it the same way. We're going to have the Goodra come in here, and then we're going to let Giratina try to sweep in the end game. Getting the advantage, the energy advantage on the Goodra will help. Now my opponent now is going to come in with a Annihilate. So this could tell me that they might not have a good answer to dragons in the back. And so I'm willing to let this go for a charge move to try and get a shield from the opponent or do some chip damage, and then come in with my Giratina and see what they've got in the back. So remember, they had a Mandibuzz in the lead, so now they're going to come in and they have a Skeledirge in the back. So this is incredibly good for me, as these Shadow Claws are just ripping through this Skeledirge, and because I still have 2 shields, I mean, the fast move damage by itself is going to be enough here, but I'm going to start going for Ominous Winds here. They would be enough to knock out from this range, and the opponent is going to have to start shielding, or they lose. I mean, they lose, and we get the boost as well, which is a little bit overkill at this point, but we take those, right? Now, opponent is going to let this go. At this point, they just did pretty much lose. I mean, all I had to do was go ahead and shield up that next move from the Skeledirge, farm down, and we were good, so good game. Always appreciate Skeledirge usage here. We get a Clodsire on the lead in the next game. The whole team has some play here, and the opponent comes in with a Sableye, and this is a little bit more awkward. I'm not really sure how to deal with Safe Swap Sableye, as I think this is honestly the first one I've seen with this team. So I'm staying in with my Skarmory here because the entire team has good play into Clodsire, but I would rather keep the Skarmory aligned to it if possible. So I get a shield, and I'm going to shield up what might be a potential return. My opponent goes for the foul play here. And now they're going to go for another foul play right off the rip, and I'm just going to go ahead and let it go. The foul play is going to do some damage, but it's not going to quite KO me here. I'm going to farm up as much as I think I can. I've lost track of energy at this point, to be honest, but I'm going to go ahead and send this Aqua Tail. The opponent's going to let it go, and we're able to get the farm down here as well. So if they bring the Clodsire back in, I should be able to get to an Aqua Tail before they farm down, and they can't farm me all the way down. Like, they will have to throw energy in order to take me out. So I'm going to go for this Aqua Tail here. That's going to do some decent chip damage to the Clodsire, and then the opponent immediately swaps in Shadow Gyarados. And at this point, dude, I'm cooked. I'm absolutely cooked. Like, on a list of things that I was not expecting to see today in the Great League, this was definitely at the very, very top of what that list would entail. They have Dragon Breath, they have Aqua Tail, they resist the Steel Wings. I have to shield this and try to go for another move, but my opponent's got the Aqua Tail ready to go, dude. I should have tried to catch on Giratina, but I couldn't do it. So now I'm going to come in with my Giratina. The opponent hopefully only gets to an Aqua Tail here, and they get to a charge move. If this is an Aqua Tail, I have a chance, but they get to the crunch, and yeah, it's over. So huge respect to this trainer for running Shadow Gyarados. Absolutely destroyed me with it. Getting into the next battle, we got Skarmory on the lead versus Magnezone. I mean, I couldn't ask for a worse lead, to be honest. Goodra's not exactly comfortable here because the Dragon Breaths are resisted. We do get some chunk damage off, but overall, I need to be able to get my Giratina to try and get against this Magnezone and take it out now. My opponent comes in with Poliwrath, and I've started to actually do some nutty things here with the Goodra. I'll actually go for the Aqua Tail because they expect me to go for Power Whip. And let's be honest, they want to go for the Icy Wind before anything. So we get the Power Whip on CMP. Dude, my nose, I'm going to just cut it off, I swear. We get the Power Whip, and the opponent now gives us both shields, and we get the CMP tie, which means that they either have to undercharge and take more damage, or they full charge it to get rid of it. Now, I'm going to come in with my Skarmory here, and the reason why is because my Skarmory is not going to have a whole lot of play if it's aligned to the Magnezone, so I'm going to use it to get rid of the Poliwrath here, and then I'm going to go into my Giratina, and I'm just going to look to try and sweep with that shield. So my opponent not able to get to the charge move. I do try to keep count anyway. They come in with a Magnezone here, and I'm going to shield if they throw a move because it could be a wild charge, and I really don't want to take that chance. So now my opponent does throw a move. It's just the mirror shot here. I'm not going to get the attack. I get the attack drop as well, but because my opponent has a Giratina of their own in the back, I can go for the Shadow Ball because I am loaded on energy right now. Shadow Ball is going to take out here. And the Magnezone is going to get taken out by the next Shadow Ball, and that's going to be a good game here. Very well played to this opponent. That was, man. Woo! All right, getting into the next battle. If I can get some... Stop it! So once again, we see an Annihilate in the lead here. And so Skarmory is going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to go up to my Sky Attack, and I'm going to throw it. The opponent doesn't even build up to the Shadow Ball here, so I can definitely no shield. Counter, it's 8 counters, but they go for close combat instead, so I'm kind of forced to get bozoed here. I go for my Brave Bird as they come in with a Dugong, and now they've made this whole thing very awkward. I don't want to do this, but I have to come in with my Goodra here against the Dugong. And I'm also going to absorb energy here, right? Again, I'm hoping that maybe they don't have a very good answer in the back to Giratina, and they've come in with a Dugong. Now, for all I know, they might have Lickitung, they might have Alolan Sandslash. I've seen, if they have that thing. I have seen some trainers who are running things like Annihilate Double Ice or Annihilate Lickitung Dugong. Some very strong sounding teams here. But we have to go into this matchup with this Bastiodon, and I have to be careful of a potential catch. Now, because I overloaded on energy in the first place, I throw with bad timing here. Shame on me. Gonna get the Shadow Ball off here, and the opponent is gonna come in with their Annihilate. So what I'm gonna do is go for the Ominous Wind to try and net a shield back off of this opponent. And in hindsight, I didn't remember how much energy they had exactly, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and shield, farm all the way down, and look to essentially just try to get a couple Shadow Balls off against the opponent's Bastiodon. If they get to a move here, I lose, but I'm going to go for the Ominous Wind bait, save some energy here, and if the opponent lets that go, then, I mean, I wouldn't. I would certainly have shielded that if I were them, so I got to go for the Shadow Ball here, trying to get as much damage in as I can with these Shadow Claws. And then I'm going to swap into my Skarmory because Skarmory is definitely a Bastiodon answer confirmed. And who doesn't love watching Basti get dunked on? We get a mirror lead in the next match. We have Skarmory on the lead, so essentially I need to try to play this matchup out. And the reason why is because whenever I see Skarmory, I always just assume in my head that there is going to be a Whiscash or a Lantern or maybe even D-Nair. You know, those are some common picks that end up going with the Skarmory leads. You know, now I'm hoping that when I play my Skarmory lead, I'm also misleading some opponents by making them think that I have the same. Now, thankfully, I don't. I'm running Double Dragon as opposed to running, you know, Whiscash and something else. And that also kind of helps, right? Like playing a little bit of a strange, you know, less common team can definitely help when it comes to trying to throw opponents off, right? That's kind of what I hope to do. So my opponent goes for the Sky Attack here, and I'm able to get to a Brave Bird. The opponent is either going to get taken out and I get rid of the Skarmory, or I'm going to get the shield. They let it go. Huge. I got the shield already. They come in with D-Nair. I come in with Goodra. I keep the D-Nair off of my... I keep it off of my Giratina, which is huge, and I'm going to farm down here, and I'm going to get the last shield from whatever comes in, because if they do have a Whiscash in the back, then they're going to have a bad time. And there's the Water Ground. Like we said, it's almost always a guarantee. It's like 99 times out of 100, you'll probably call the Whiscash Skarmory core when you see one or the other. So good game to the opponent. Reading that team was huge. Oh, that was the last game. Well, all right. Picking up another 4-1, making some really nice gains into the 2500s. I've since been playing things here and there, getting kind of, you know, up and down in that range, but pretty steadily staying in the veteran range. This team is super strong, and unfortunately, there's not really a replacement for the Giratina. And for those of you who are still watching and want to get a Giratina, you can find somebody who obtained one from the Road to Sinnoh research last season, who may have one, and they could try and trade for it. That's the only way you can unfortunately get one. But hopefully this, you know, if you have the Giratina, you give this team a try. I think it's very strong. It's been extremely good for me. So I'm going to leave you with that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.